No one feels tired when they're winning. Isn't that an interesting phenomenon? No one has to tell you to get up, go after your dreams when the ball's just rolling, the doors seem to be open, the deals are closing, all the content's doing great, and everyone loves you, everything's going fantastic. You feel so energized, don't you? And then the real test comes in. The friction hits, the uncertainty hits. And that's when you really get to decide, are you in this thing for the long haul, or were you only in it because it seemed to be accepting you at that time? And here's what you will find is that you will be rewarded according to the amount of uncertainty you can tolerate while continuing to put in the efforts. So today we're going to talk about friction, we're going to talk about trailblazing, and we're going to talk about why the hardest season often happens right before your breakthrough. But first, who am I? What's up, you guys? It's Sage here. I'm the CEO, founder of Legacy Africa. Legacy Africa helps entrepreneurs that are the bottlenecks of their business scale their businesses. And so our ideal customer would be someone that has built their business to a certain point where now the demands on their time far outweigh how much time they have in supply. And so it's about time to start implementing some systems, some processes, some people, if that is the constraint of the business, and start having a business instead of building a more golden and more shiny handcuffs for themselves. Instead of building themselves a job, we get them to start building a business. Um, but in any case, today we're talking about friction, trailblazing, and why the hardest part often happens right before you break through. And so winning creates energy. I think it was Newton. Newton said this. I can't remember which law it was. It could have been the second one, but I know it's the law of inertia, which is an object in motion tends to stay in motion unless disturbed by an outside force. Um, Same for an object at rest. It tends to stay at rest unless it's overcome by a larger outside force. And so when you're in motion, when the ball is rolling, it is genuinely, scientifically, you understand why the mind functions in the way it does, and you feel like you have infinite energy when you're winning. It's because it literally takes less energy to continue. It takes less energy to keep running faster with the ball than it does to get the ball rolling to begin with. But then what happens when you hit the speed bump? What happens when you hit unfamiliar terrain? What happens when you hit a patch where there is no path and you have to create that path and the board is slowing down? Can you continue then until you hit the next piece of dirt that may be just a little bit more refined? Maybe someone has touched here and there a little bit, and there's a little bit of guidance that can be provided to you in terms of this part of navigating the terrain. Can you sustain yourself until you get there? That becomes a question. But it's so easy when you're winning. It's so easy when you're on top. It's so easy in the beginning of the marathon. Why? Because everyone's around you, your family's still watching. There's literally so many runners around you as well. Your adrenaline's high. You're finally doing the thing that you said that you wanted to do, and then suddenly, boom, you've hit that middle between the start and the finish, where you need the cheering the most, and no one's cheering, no one's watching, no one's supporting. It's just you and the road and the promises that you made to yourself. That is the part that will put into question whether you are actually in it for the long haul, whether you actually can produce that victory that you're looking for, whether you can keep those promises to yourself or you cannot. That's the part that will answer that question for you. And so when the deals close, the content hits, the opportunities appear, you naturally feel energized. That's the easy part. The real work comes when the reward is invisible yet. Very important word, yet. That's entrepreneurship and that's faith. And ultimately, that is what will carry you is your belief in your dream, your belief in your vision, your belief in yourself, and your ability to show up for yourself, to execute for yourself consistently. That is what true success is the character that you build while you're on the journey, not the result itself, but the journey and who the journey forces you to become. And all that happens, and it only happens when you have to put the real work in, when the reward is invisible, when there are no applause. Are you able to still consistently show up? That's literally the question. And so Something very important that you need to understand, next part we're going to touch on, is there's a generational friction that exists when you're trying to create something, be something that isn't around you. It doesn't exist around you. Hence, you are feeling that friction even in the points when you're not winning, where there's an additional friction. I mean, it's easy for the people around you to believe, to support when things seem to be going your way. But when nothing is going your way and you're not even sure which way you're going, how you're going to figure this thing out, when faith becomes a very important component, and you need to walk by that faith instead of uh, giving into your fears, that's when you feel the heaviest friction. And if this path was normal in your environment, you'd already be seeing people who do the thing around you, but you don't, which means you're building something unfamiliar, which creates friction. And the interesting thing about that is when you realize that while you're trying to explain the thing that you see, uh, they don't see it. Like there are certain things, and I'll tell you, for me personally in my life, that I saw happening before they happened, long before they happened. There's certain things that are happening now and that will happen that I saw a long time ago that, oh, okay, if I was like, oh, this thing is actually, it's actually quite easy. It's quite uh easy is a strong word. It's quite simple. Like, oh, okay, if I put in these inputs over this period of time, I'm guaranteed to win at the end of it. It's like, well, nothing in life is guaranteed. It's like, well, yeah, the how outsized the returns are going to be depends on my rate of improvement, and that's going to depend on a whole lot of factors. However, what is guaranteed is that if you eat well, you sleep well, you train hard, consistently, you will improve your physical shape. Guaranteed. Like it's veritably guaranteed. It's as guaranteed as anything can be in life. You know? Same for showing up in any sort of way within your personal life, be that relationship wise. If you stay to certain creeds and certain values and you stick to only associating yourself with those types of people, eventually you'll find someone who has those certain types of values, that has aligned incentives with you, and that ends up being your partner long term. And so on and so forth. You can apply it across a lot of paradigms. But the very important thing with the generational friction is you have to realize that you are literally fighting against parts of yourself when you embark on this journey. You are literally fighting against pieces of your DNA, where if this came naturally to you, then the people around you, ahead of you, your elders, already would have walked the path and they already would have succeeded, but they haven't in this particular way that you're trying to go for, which means it's not native to you. It's not native to who you are. It's not native to the way that you're programmed. It's not native to anything to do with your environment currently. And so the way that you create that, the way that you build that, is by internalizing first and foremost that, okay, these things that I feel about what I'm doing are the reason why they haven't been done before. Because perhaps someone did have some of these inclinations that are positive, that are towards these things that I want, but the part of me that's telling me not to go forward right now, that's the part that's been holding my family back for generations in a certain context, to a certain extent. Obviously, every generation should build on top of the one that came before it, etc. But you can even think of it in this way: the things that plague me now, the things that tempt me now, have tempted all the people that came before me, and maybe to different extent, to different percentages, they have held back um, the people in my bloodline from, again, piercing past a certain threshold. There seems to be a cap, there seems to be a roof. And I believe that the only thing that can possibly get in your way is you, which is either you not showing up, you giving in, you not trusting yourself in certain moments, or whatever the case. But I believe as long as you get out of your own way, that the growth potential of the human being is incredible and limitless. That's my personal belief. And so any resulting win that you haven't gotten is a result of not being all in that sense, or giving in to the parts of yourself that do pull you back. And then they exist in all of us, right? But then the question becomes, are you going to allow that to happen to you? Or are you going to say, you know what, I'm sick and tired, and I will not be held back by the parts of myself that I no longer want to be. Um, and most of you will be unsuccessful, not because you don't have it in you or because you're not great. You have greatness within you, but you can't outlast your old you long enough to get to your new you. I'll tell you a very practical, real story about this, about me. I talk about it. I don't talk about it too often, but sure, I do mention every once in a while that I used to live a very a different life to what I'm living now. I used to go out a lot, used to, play with the girls, all that good stuff. And that, like, whatever it is in me, like the beast in me, the animal in me that desired that, it still exists. It's still there. But I just don't give in. And very importantly, I don't put myself in those environments that would make me compromised, because it hasn't been that long. It hasn't been a crazy amount of time to where who I am now is second nature, but who I am now is a choice that I make every single day. And so there's a very realistic battle that goes on internally when certain situations are presented, and most of us will be unsuccessful, not because we don't have this great part that shows up, creates, builds, and is all these great things, but because we can't outlast the old part of ourselves long enough to get to the next part. So many times I've had to make the choice of, oh, let me actually hold on to this capital, instead of deploying it in these, uh, shitholes, so to speak, and putting it towards like being flashy for this girl, or getting that girl, or doing this or doing that. Let me actually pull back from this lifestyle, hold on to this capital, and then having it allows me to deploy it in situations where I see fit, putting myself in those situations that has done wonders for my career, and in equipment that I need, putting it towards whatever it may take, or whatever software it may take, whatever the business may need at that time. Like there's so many things that come from being able to outlast your old you. The time that you put into, chasing the girls, looking at Instagram profiles, and listening even to a certain type of music that puts you in that certain psychological space. you know um like the watching the watching the movies, and I'm not talking about the type you see in Hollywood, and all that self-indulgent type of behaviors. All of those still exist, like they still exist within me as a human being. But again, deliberate choice that you make every day not to become that person. And most of us will be unsuccessful, not because we can't do it, not because we don't have it in us, not because we aren't excellent, not because we don't have the work ethic. We do. We have all these things. We have these ambitions. We have these dreams, these goals. But we never really press towards them or make very serious progress towards them, because we can't outlast who we used to be long enough to get to who we want to be. Very, very important to realize that generational friction isn't just between you and the current generation of people that are living with you, but it is within your DNA. There are certain parts of what you are, not who you are, what you are, that will consistently try and hold you back. You need to be very aware of those things. Be very aware of how powerful those things are. People have different names for them. Some people call them generational curses. I don't like to use that word. But there are certainly behaviors that have been passed down through the generations. There are certainly ways of viewing the world that you even subconsciously don't even know that you have, but have just been around you. Certain things that have been believed to be true. Like, no, I can't have that. It's like, well, why can't you have it? Well, no, it's just we just don't have those things. Those just aren't something that we have. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to kind of deprogram that, and you have to convince yourself every single day that you are worthy of these things, and that you can have these things and you should work towards these things, because the work towards them is what true success is within itself. But topic for another day. Trailblazing. You're walking a path that is not paved. It's a long and winding road, and you're building the plane while flying it. You're carving the path while working it. So of course it feels hard. If you think about that in a literal sense, if you think about building a plane while you're flying, right? It's just you, it's the steering wheel, it's two engines, and that's all you got. That's all you got. You don't even have a map, bro. But you know that if I keep flying straight, and perhaps, yeah, I do have this engine tank here. I do have these two engines. I don't have brakes. I don't have tires. However, what it would cost me in terms of waiting idle for the tires and the brakes to get fitted, the expense of getting the brakes to begin with, I think it makes more sense to just buy more jet fuel continuously, so that and have it shipped to me, like have it siphoned into the plane so that I can keep flying. It makes more economical sense to keep going than to stop now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you will find yourself in those positions because you're pioneering. You are a first this, a first that. um, you, African child, are perhaps the first in your family, perhaps the first in history, period, to come from a certain beginning, and push towards, press towards, begin to achieve a certain outcome, while maintaining certain levels of freedom all throughout that process. These things have never happened before. We're living in a time different from any time that there has been before. There's so much opportunity that we are confronted with, you know. An opportunity will confront you, and it is the capacity that you have, that you can build over time, and it is the awareness of mind that takes advantage of the luck slash opportunity that is in front of you. There's so many people who have opportunities in front of them, have luck that is there to be claimed, um, but they don't take it because they don't see it, because they haven't built the capacity, because they're so burnt out or hung over, or lustful, or whatever it is that is haunting them back. Whatever the old them is that is holding them back from blazing that trail, is what will hold them back ultimately. Is what will cause them to lack the capacity to be who they ought to be. And so don't allow that to be your story. Really truly understand that you are a first something, and in order to make sure that you're not a lost something, um, Dave's wonderfully eloquently put, give a fuck about success if it ain't success, right? It's not just about you winning, it's about carving the path, maintaining the path, so that the ones who come after you can have an easier time getting to where you are and beyond. And finally, or second lastly, uh, it's very important at the end of the day to be able to ask yourself honestly the question, did I do what I said I was going to do? And the answer to that to be yes. And that's a very good compass at the end of the day, I think, especially at this level. And I believe it will remain, it's one of those evergreen things, which is asking yourself, did I do what I said I was going to do? Not did I get what I said I was going to get, but did I do what I said I was going to do? And if the answer is yes, then you have succeeded. That's pretty much it. If the answer is yes, then you have won. You did what you said you were going to do. You put your best foot forth consistently over a long period of time, and you got what you got. And the interesting thing about um, the trailblazing part is you're gonna shoot for a 10. You're gonna get a 7.9, and instead of looking at that 7.9 thinking, man, how did I miss the rest of this? You have to, as quickly as possible, go to, all right, that's a lot more than zero. You know what I'm saying? And it's pretty close to where I want it to be. And next time I see what I have to adjust in order to do better, and we'll try and shoot for a 10 then. But Congratulations to me. I'll take what I can take. Let's press forward in order to energize yourself. Because again, it's easier when you're winning. It's very important to give yourself those small wins along the way, just in order to keep going. And finally, when things feel the hardest, it may actually be evidence that you're close. So stop waiting to feel like it. Get your stuff together and go even harder because he believed in you enough to give you the vision in the first place. Now, I know that we're all different people. We all believe in different things, but I certainly think that we all believe at least one thing to be true, um, and that is within the uniqueness of ourselves. Like you think you are one of zero, not even one of one of zero. There's no other like you, and so it goes from I do something that no one else does to I do something that no one else can do. That's what going from one of one to one of zero is. And I believe that we all believe that we do things that no one else can do in the way that we do them. That's what makes us unique, special, different. That source, that personality, the combination of things that you are is mathematically impossible to repeat. And so I ask you and I urge you to show up for yourself in that way and realize that you have been divinely gifted with something. There's something within your genetic code that can't be replicated. And they say that the graveyard is the richest place on earth. And the reason for that is because people die with those gifts. People die with those very special things that they were given and they don't get to express them within the world. All I ask you, or all I ask of you, is this: don't allow that to be your story. Show up in the way that you can and leave with no regrets. Sacrifice without regret. Thank you for watching, entrepreneurs. If you want to scale your business and stuff, I got you. Legacy Africa, links in the description. If you're not an entrepreneur, but you did in fact enjoy the video, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please do hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. In any case, I have been sanctioned. Standing on business. Signing out.